welcome to the West Ham Voice, all the way from sunny Tenerife. I hope you're all doing well. I've been having a bit of Pablo Fornals moment today, well, quite a few times today. It's been a bit hazy in Tenerife today. It's been a bit of a dark cloud looming over the resort that we're staying at, but it's kind of gone now, thank goodness. A bit of an omen, that, isn't it, to some West Ham fans, that there's a dark cloud, given the negativity surrounding the club at this moment in time. Although, thank goodness, that dark cloud is going, certainly for me, if not for everybody. I think we've got to reflect very briefly, because that dark cloud is sort of like being persistent over the game at Everton last weekend. Look, I know everyone has a different view on how West Ham are progressing, but for me, I think West Ham are on the right track under Graham Potter, and he's proving that we're making small steps in improving what we're doing at the club, and we just need to have some faith, because I think better times are to come. Sure, against Everton last weekend, we should have held on for the win, given that there was only a few minutes left in the game. But our away days at Goodison usually end up with disappointment. But to walk away with a point, I think, was a fair result. But being at the game itself was far from boring, and despite the teams cancelling each other out in the first half, I think the second half was actually quite an entertaining and an exciting game to be at. Still, we soldier on and look towards what's happening off the pitch again, because now there's an international break, and we haven't got a game now until the 1st of April when we play Wolves away from home at Molineux, and so there's nothing else, unfortunately, but to focus on what's going on off the pitch. And the story that is currently hogging the West Ham mainstream and social media pages is our supposed pursuit over Jonathan David. Now, let me be really honest. I don't think we stand a chance of getting the player to sign for West Ham this summer, but I'd love to be proven wrong. Almost every story about him so far, linking him to us, has been found to be either untrue or the truth somewhat twisted. A few weeks back, we were told that we had made an offer for David to join West Ham at the end of this season. Now, no one was able to corroborate whether this was true or not, but that didn't stop many from reporting this to be 100% fact. Then we heard that Jonathan David's agent was a guest at the London Stadium in our recent game against Newcastle 2 weeks ago. But again, despite the ITK's reporting this to be fact, we now find out that that his agent was nowhere near the stadium on that day. Now, the latest is that we have made Jonathan David yet another offer that is too good for him to resist, and that we've also sent a transfer specialist to France to woo the player to East London this coming summer. Where's Tim Steidten and his jet when you most need him, eh? Look, I've been told that the agent actually flying out to France is in fact true, but the agent himself and West Ham United as a club feel that we stand very little chance in persuading the much sought after striker to sign for the club this summer. Jonathan David and his agent know all too well that the big guns will soon be making their own lucrative offers if they hadn't already done so. You see, what's good about a free agent is that there's no transfer fee to pay, which means that clubs can substantially boost the package offer to the player in terms of a signing on fee and a massive weekly wage. If Jonathan David was contracted to Lille at the French club would have wanted undoubtedly a substantial transfer fee of maybe 40, 50, 60 million pounds, even though the player himself would have been in the last year of his contract. Look, last summer, Lille did actually try to sell the player at the end of the season, but he was having none of it and made it abundantly clear that he was ready to walk away at the end of his contract so that he would be in total control as to who he would be playing for next season. So with clubs knowing that there will be no substantial fee, transfer fee, an offer of say 250 grand a week, and a signing on fee of say what, 20 million, probably shared between him and his agent, would still be financially viable. Let's say David was offered that kind of money over say a 5-year deal. 250 grand a week over 5 years plus a 20 million pound signing on fee will still come to 85 million pounds in total over those 5 years. That, in today's transfer window, is a Mohammed Kudus. And don't forget, clubs will still have to pay, if they were to buy a player for 85 million, they still have to pay his wages on top of that. So I totally get why clubs like West Ham would want to sign one of the hottest strikers in football who's available on a free at this coming summer. He's a goal-scoring phenomenon. 107 goals in 224 games for Lille and counting. That's around what, a goal every other game? He's got European experience, having played in Champions League football, and he's a Canadian international as well. And on top of that, he's only 25 years of age with at least, what, 5, 6, 7 years in top flight football to go. So let's see what happens, but I'm not holding my breath. I'd love to think otherwise, but I'm really not certain that this will materialise for West Ham. But with the pursuit of Jonathan David, what does this mean for the strikers that we currently have at West Ham? Well, we all know that Danny Ings will leave the club when his contract comes to an end this coming summer, and there is much speculation as to whether we will stick with Nicholas Füllkrug or not next season. At 32, his injuries are only likely to get worse, but there's no guarantee that we're actually going to find a buyer for him in the summer window. And if we do, then we're likely to have to lose a lot more money than we paid for him, maybe half the money, if not more so. Then, of course, we've got Antonio. Look, I'd like nothing more than Antonio to return to top-flight football after the terrible car crash that he had. I've seen the interview that he's done and how determined he is to return to playing top-flight football. But the realism is, at the age of 35 and recovering from such horrific injuries, his return to playing at the highest level, I don't know, just doesn't seem realistic to me, to be honest with you. But again, let's see. He's at the end of his contract with West Ham in the summer. And despite being a fantastic servant for the club, are West Ham United going to allow sentiment to get in the way of offering him a 1-year extension on his contract? Look, we did it with Angelo Ogbonna when he got injured and he was in the last year of his contract. We gave him a 1-year extension during his recovery period. But Antonio is a different kettle of fish altogether. Antonio is on something like 80, 100 grand a week. That's a lot of money to hand out based on sentiment alone. Then we come, of course, to on loan striker, Evan Ferguson. Now, the fan base is somewhat split over this player. Some say that he's simply not good enough, and others are suggesting that he's just not being given the chance at West Ham to prove his worth. Look, in all honesty, I'm of the opinion that Ferguson is not likely to come good at West Ham. And that at the end of his loan spell, he's going to be sent back to Brighton. There was a lot of debate as to why we didn't agree to sign him with an obligation to buy. If you recall, during the winter window, everyone was going, why aren't we, we're going to miss an opportunity with him. We should be buying him outright, or certainly an obligation to buy. But I can see why we didn't do that now. I guess from Potter's side, there was hesitancy that suggests that maybe he wasn't quite sure whether Ferguson would come good after his recent injury spell. And I think it's now proving that Potter's right. Then why get him on loan in the first place? And I hear that quite a lot. Well, I get why we got him on loan with no obligation. A loan signing with no obligation means that if the player doesn't come good, then we're not committed to parting with a sizable amount of money in this summer's transfer window when we're told that money's going to be quite tight anyway. And I think that's quite right. But sure, he could come good in the final few games of the season, and then we might end up having to, if we want to keep him, we might end up having to pay quite a sizable amount of money to keep him anyway. But I don't think that's going to happen. Sure, during the international break, he will get his chance with the Republic of Ireland to demonstrate that he is indeed worth investing in. And if he does, then we will get to use him more frequently at West Ham. And then, as I said, we'll try and get as good a deal for him from Brighton in the summer. But like I said, I'm not convinced that Ferguson is really going to come good. He's been sluggish. He's been way off looking fully fit. And if he was, he would have. If he was fully fit, we would have used him, or certainly Potter would have used him far more than just a few minutes that he's been offered so far. And he would be banging on Potter's door to be in the starting lineup in the first 11. Look, again, that might yet come, but his cameo roles for West Ham so far seems to suggest that he's not going to make it. And then this leads me on to his future at West Ham. With the club desperately in pursuit of a player like Jonathan David, and I dare say in pursuit of other strikers when we finally accept that David isn't coming to West Ham, it seems to be sending a huge message that Ferguson doesn't really have a future at the club. Sure, there's nothing wrong with having two strikers at a club. Why not have both Jonathan David and Evan Ferguson? But they're such different players. They're such different. They have such different approaches to their game that I don't think that we're going to be pursuing Ferguson in the summer. Look, I may be proved wrong. Ferguson may come good. We're certainly not going to get Jonathan David. So let's see. Look, there's 9 games to go. He obviously can't play against Brighton, Jonathan Ferguson. So he'll have 8 games to prove that he's actually worthy of being signed. Let's see what happens. But the striker pursuit seems to be ongoing, and it's going to be interesting to see what we do in the transfer window. Anyway, I'm going to get back to drinking my Estrella and taking the other half out to dinner before she gets bored. So thank you all for watching. If you're new to the channel, please do hit the like button and subscribe. Or if you're an existing subscriber, hit that like button. The like button really, really helps the channel to grow. So it's absolutely vital. If you've enjoyed the video, please make sure you hit the like button at the end of it. Thank you for watching and listening, and I'll see you all very soon.